Hey everybody, welcome to a new season of the Luck of the Draw Outdoors podcast. We had a few episodes last year in 2024, and we're hoping this year we can definitely expand, get to know the team better, and who we are, where we come from, and our hunting goals as well as personal goals, and hopefully some fun guests like we did last year. We had Spooks Band and the guys from Backwoods Life Outdoors, and so we've got some potential guests for 2025. We're just hoping we can seal the deal. And so, without further ado, our first episode, I am joined by the man himself, Big Red. Super excited to have you back on, brother. How's the weather down your way?
Well, you can see I'm kind of bundled up a little bit here in the house, but I just got back in from running to town. We've had a pretty roller coaster ride the last 2 weeks. We've had 60s and 30s, and then some, I guess, bitter cold, kind of like being back in Michigan. Gets some low 20s in the morning, and then gets up to mid 30s during the day. But yesterday was 75 and beautiful, and today was a high of 41. No, maybe almost, no, I think it almost got to 50. Tomorrow's supposed to be only high of about 41 and rain all day. So,
See that's a winter that I could live with. When me and my wife first got married and started talking about where we wanted to move, Knoxville was on the radar, and then Hillsdale, where we ended up settling down. But we liked being close to family, where if we went down
sure.
towards your way, we definitely get the better winters. We're staring at 6 or 7 inches of snow Wednesday into Thursday, and then Saturday into Sunday, another 3 to 6. So joy. I mean, once Christmas is
Yeah.
over and all that, I'm just like, let's think baseball thoughts, let's think turkey thoughts. I'm itching to get back out in the woods because my deer season, it was good as I got her first buck, super, super proud. But it definitely for me as a hunter didn't culminate into anything worthwhile. But that's how hunting goes, and that's why we talked, and named the show Luck of the Draw, because really don't know. But
Yeah, 100%.
did you catch the Super Bowl Sunday?
Not much. I vowed not to watch it.
Oh, because the Bills weren't in it?
Well, the Bills weren't in it, obviously, but more or less, I'm a conspiracy theorist enthusiast, so it's not hard for me to start running down a rabbit hole if I find some evidence and wanting to chase more and find more out. But I just find it extremely hard to believe that as bad as the Chiefs were on paper, they were the best team in the AFC to be in the Super Bowl. Albeit my guys had the ball with 3.5 minutes to go and didn't get it done in a convincing fashion, let's say, where there wasn't any prejudice or speculation or what have you. Um, I'm not even upset about the fourth down Josh Allen sneak, where it was, depending on which angle you looked at it, the ball made it or it didn't make it. It was the play before that
Right.
nobody talks about. It was Dalton Kincaid who caught the pass and was tackled on the 40-yard line, and the side judge marked him a full yard short. And if you look back at the game, which I've watched once in entirety, um, it's kind of like watching a hunt again, trying to find things that were wrong and you could do
Right.
better.
Yeah.
But there were at least five other times where refs marked the Bills, specifically the Bills, within a half yard to a yard short of where the player had come down. So it's just very hard, being a Bills fan. We had to endure the Tom Brady era of 20 some odd years of getting our tail kicked in. And granted, we didn't have good teams anyway, but the team from our division, let alone the team from our conference, was a perennial dynasty. And now we're knocking on the door of having a superstar who finally got his first MVP, which was well deserved and overdue. But we're dealing with another NFL child, and I think they're trying to hoist Kansas City and Mahomes and all that stuff up to a higher level for people. And kudos to them for making it. I mean, they won a lot of tough games. It seemed like they got extremely lucky at the end of games, whether guys didn't make kicks or calls weren't made. But we digress. It's luck of the draw outdoors. We incorporate the outdoors now to mean a whole lot of things: camping, food prep, meals, working out, staying in shape, getting ready for those hunts to go out west or to go places that you're not accustomed to. So we can get off to football now. Football season's over with. So
Yeah, well, and you know me, I'm a Illinois native, so for me the season was over on week one. Being a Bears fan, it is what it is. But the cool thing about luck of the draw and what we do is, like you said, sports are a part of our DNA as a show, and incorporating the term outdoors for our friends, fans, and followers. We have officially rebranded Luck of the Draw to Luck of the Draw Outdoors because the outdoors encompasses so much more than just hunting. I mean, survivalist stuff has always been intriguing to me. This plant, if you rub it on a cut, it'll have, healing properties or antibacterial properties or whatnot. You can eat this berry, but not
right.
one. Like, that's really cool stuff. And for me, also incorporating the cooking aspect, like obviously everybody films their hunt these days, and they may not try and do it like we do it or like the Drury brothers do, but they do it because they enjoy it. But you don't always see it correlate over to the family dynamic, like how the hunt really, outside of those memorable moments, like our most recent episode with you and your son. I mean, like, it's amazing to be able to have that memory forever, and to be able to share it with friends and family. But that doesn't impact the family as far as provisions go. And so it's cool to be able to bring it full circle as we rebrand our name, come up with a permanent logo. Definitely a lot of cool things to be excited about. Was there anything with the hunt that we just put out? It was kind of a two-part hunt, a very cool hunt. I've never hunted in Texas, nor have I been to Texas. It's definitely on my radar and my bucket list, but fill us in, give us some backstory on that situation because there's so much and it all seemed to happen so quick. Was there anything that you weren't able to catch on camera, or like just a moment that looking back you're like, well, that was really special to me. That would have been cool to capture on camera, and the opportunity just didn't show itself in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, being able to have friends and family in the state of Texas and let alone have access to land to hunt is, one of those things, ace up your sleeve and stuff like that that you want to hold on to. And, for me and my family, basically a brother from another mother that, I never grew up with Donnie Anderson. He had the right connections. He was working for a gentleman that owns. Oh God, when they talk about land out there in the panhandle of Texas, they don't talk about acres, they talk about sections. And I know I talked about it before in another podcast, but a section is a square mile. And this guy, the property that we hunted specifically was along the Canadian River in Canadian Texas. So basically, it was river bottom land with some prairie and pastures and stuff like that. But I mean, it was 6 square miles just along the river, all one piece. So it's like, he had X amount of stands and down there you have to have supplemental feed at times, especially during the winter months where the grass goes dormant, the hay fields are, not ripe and they gotta forage for stuff just like anywhere else. I mean, down there in the panhandle, they think it's Texas and they don't really realize, like, everybody talks about Texas is so big. If you're into US history, Texas, could theoretically they could annex from the United States of America and form their own state or their own country that is in their constitution, in their bylaws. And Texas, living in Houston, playing for the Astros, you're down along the Gulf. It's hot, it's humid, it's everything that has to do with the Deep South. You go to San Antonio, Austin, the hill country right there. You're starting to get some rolling hills, cedars, and some draws and some stuff here and there. You go out to El Paso, it's more, you're getting into that southwest of the United States, where you're getting some desert, and you're getting some pretty vastly dead vegetation areas. You go up to the Panhandle, and it's like you're in a whole nother world. It's high desert up there, so there's a lot of flat land. Even if there's drops and draws and canyons, where you're at's the plateau or the flat. And then there are some areas where there's some buttes and stuff like that where you could get up on if need be. But there's hayfields and prairie land, there's pastures, there's river bottom. I mean, there's just it's like the Panhandle of Texas is its own little ecosystem in itself. And Fortunately, we were there for about a week. I had a lot of good encounters with animals of all sorts, mule deer, whitetail, aoudad sheep we've talked about before, coyotes, pigs, stuff like that. I mean, the game variety is amazing. Um, in regret, the only thing that I really wish we would have had more footage of and or I guess knowledge at the time of it happening. As you could see at the end of the last episode, Brennan makes a great shot. We talked about watching it for almost 15, 20 minutes so many times in super slow-mo, and he drilled this deer. I mean, absolutely drilled this deer. Beautiful shot. Um, Deer ran off. There wasn't a speck of blood. I mean, all the frost that you saw on the vegetation, the ground was frosty. I mean, I love hunting in snow just because it's hard for me at times being colorblind to various degrees. It's hard for me to track in the fall, even though it's my favorite time of year, if there's a lot of colored leaves on the ground and I don't have a great blood trail. Because if there's a drop of water on a red leaf, to me it looks like it's blood. If there's, a leaf that's yellow and orange and got a speck of red on it, well, now I think that's blood. Well, that's just the leaf changing. Um, so I always said snow's good for two things: Christmas Eve and Christmas morning, and then deer season, so you can have an easy blood trail. But we couldn't find blood for nothing, and because it was so cold, and toting those cameras and those packs and the batteries and stuff, like you're trying to keep them warm on your body or in your blind with heat because the cold will just drain them, even
Oh,
if you're not using them.
yeah.
And I wish I would have been able to have the camera rolling a lot more while we were walking around, especially when thinking back when I found the deer first. Um, I could have been talking in the camera and then been like, more of a surprise for Brennan and caught that type of footage
Right.
in reaction on camera as opposed to, well, this is why, we walk this way and you just never know. And it's like, oh, well, because there's a big deer. And then we see Brennan over this freaking monstrosity of a 9 point,
There.
buck and a beautiful deer, his biggest deer to date. And, so stuff like that, I wish it just gotten a little bit, had the ability to do a little bit more of that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a cool thing to be able to sit down, especially considering your episode was the last one we did, to sit down and kind of dissect it and really talk about the behind the scenes stuff because I'm sure people are curious what really goes on in the making of any kind of video hunting show, feature film, you name it. Like there's a lot that goes into it. And I mean you hit it right on the head that Texas is when I thought of Texas and if it wouldn't be for the fact that I had seen some hunting episodes like Stephen Ranella, the Drury brothers down in that area, yeah, when you think of Texas, you think of desert, And so when I got your footage and started really dissecting it and watching it and trying to put the story together, I was like, it's bananas to me that it's that cold. And on top of that, I mean, that icy frost, I mean, it was definitely beautiful. But did you ever find out? I mean, from what I could see on the video, it looked right in the pie plate of either lungs or a heart shot. I mean, it looked like a really nice, clean shot. Did you guys, when you were, processing that deer or skinning it, field dressing it, did you ever really inspect the organs or, the body of the deer to figure out why he didn't bleed?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that I do a little bit more as I try and obtain more knowledge of especially a white-tailed deer. I've had the fortunate opportunity to harvest a moose in Canada. I've gotten a Rocky Mountain elk, albeit from Ohio, on a game ranch out there. But whitetail deer is what I've been around the most, and for most of our audience and our hunters that are probably east of the Rockies, whitetail is going to be their primary big game deer species, and they're just such resilient animals. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a UP Michigan buck that weighs 250 pounds, or if it's a Texas whitetail that's scoring 180 inches, but he weighs 167 pounds. Like the body size, the animal is just a resilient animal, which adds to the fun and the frustration of the chase, of thinking you made a great shot, of thinking, oh my God, I made the worst shot ever. I can't believe I got that deer. And it might not have been the greatest shot. It might have been back, it might have been high, and then you recover that deer within 100 yards. And then people are making great shots and they're chasing them for a half a mile.
Right.
There's just no rhyme or reason. But so I always, when I'm cleaning an animal and field dressing it and going through stuff, I look at the organs. I look at, when you're pulling it out and you're going through that process, you're like, okay, oh, well, this is a piece, this is lung. You definitely got lung here because it's, it's broke apart, it's deflated, it's not, what it is, it's trauma.
Right.
My son takes pride in being a sharpshooter. He likes to try and go for the heart, if and when possible. We didn't have a whole lot of time for that buck to get that type of aim. Especially we had to change we had to change spots in the blind while those deer were out there. So a lot of the time, the reason why the footage of that deer walking from the left out of the brush and walking across that opening towards the other deer in the feeder, the reason why it wasn't ever zoomed in is because we were trying to jockey without kicking the tripod with the camera on it,
Right.
without making the chairs make noise. Because I mean, we're in elevated, beautiful elevated redneck lines, and but any move, because they're kind of hollow, any move is multiplied, tenfold at least outside. Um, and then by the time he got set up and we got the gun out the window and all this other stuff, it was like he started. Deer have that sixth sense, right? That intuition that
Mhm.
something's kind of fishy, not really sure what it is. I mean, because none of those other deer were really paying attention, but there's a reason why these bucks get the way they are, and the reason why they get as big as they do. They're smart, they're wily, they're on edge. When you wouldn't think they needed to be. Um, but yeah, so when I got down to got up into the chest cavity and started pulling from up there, grabbed the heart, he actually clipped the aorta on the down swoop, because we were elevated. So he went in, let's see what he went in high to mid high front left shoulder because he was kind of quartering,
Yeah.
and then went down through, and never hit anything on the gut side on the exit, but came out behind the shoulder on the other side. So I mean, perfect shot. Um, the entry wound was there. There was an exit wound. So for the fact that there not being a blood trail, um, the only thing I can imagine is for some reason, while the deer kicked and took off, maybe a piece of organ or something clogged that exit hole
Right.
and didn't allow that side to bleed.
Mm.
Because when we got to the deer, it was like somebody took a Wagner paint sprayer and they just took crimson red and sprayed it and just sprayed the frost and the veg. I mean, it was everywhere, but it was literally only right where he was at, within 20 feet.
I I had that happen with the first buck I ever shot. I was actually watching a doe with a couple yearlings, and he came out. I was on the ground standing behind some brush, and gave me a quartering to me shot at like 20 yards. So I hit him. Then he ran. He was kind of in an open field. He ran into the woods, and so I backed off for a couple hours, waited till dark, went back, found a little bit of hair, but no blood, no arrow. And I searched for probably, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes before I found half of my arrow broken off right at the entrance to the woods. And I mean, I was following little specks, and I got, probably 20 yards from him, and I looked up and there he was, and it was disbelief because at that point I thought I made a bad shot. You know,
Right.
I should have waited a few seconds more and let him go completely broadside. But I mean, it was a good shot, double lunged, and it's just when it went out, like you said, it pulled some, you know, organ of some kind, just enough to clog it where there was hardly any blood trail to follow. But then,
Yeah, I mean, it's truly amazing how fast you go from exhilaration and joy and celebration, the preemptive celebration of, you made a good shot.
right,
There's no way it was a bad shot.
right,
Um, and then you get down and you're, having the ability to film your hunt or have your hunt filmed, depending on if you can self do it or if you have someone do it for you, is you can go back and watch stuff, right? So I mean, you can kind of backtrack and like I said, we watched it a dozen times over. It's super slow-mo on the camera, and like tried to zoom in the best we could. We're not using, $2,000, $5,000 cameras. We're using good, high quality cameras, but there's only so much you can do on the device itself.
right,
And then you go and you just start taking, especially for me, you start taking all of your hunts that you've ever been on, all your good ones and your bad ones, and all your tracking. And it's like, okay, we know he went this way. What's the deer's general idea? Where does he want to go? Where does she want to go? More times than not, they want to go towards water. Um, if there's a water source, well, the river was on the opposite side the deer went, within 100 yards. They want to go to thickness. They want to go somewhere where they can get out of the view of the predator that they don't know what's going on and calm themselves down and kind of lay low. Well, that's kind of where he ran into. It was just thick brush. I mean, nothing substantial, but just tall grasses and some mesquite brush and stuff like that. And then in three, they tend to have, I don't know what the percentage is. I'm going to throw one out there, but I would say it's probably in the 65 to 70% range. They tend to circle back to where the original thing happened, or kind of make a circle. It's never really a straight line unless it's a absolute slam dunk. You found them within 60, 70 yards and it's straight line. Um, So you take all that into consideration when you're tracking an animal that you don't have a whole lot of information to go on based off of blood trail, what have you. And like I said, I mean, we were we're gonna get them, we're gonna get them, we're gonna get them, and then 5 minutes goes by, 10 minutes goes by, we come back out of the brush. Are we sure he went in here? And then it's like, well, we don't want to spread out too much because we don't want to contaminate the area with two people walking in different footsteps. So we kind of want to stay together and just keep one trail for us. Well, then you get into this brush and there's multiple trails that deer go down. Well, being that it was freshly frosted and there was about 7 deer out there was a number of different deer trails, that you could see with hooves in them. We're like, okay, well, what one did he go down? Bigger deer, bigger buck, heavy buck. He's probably going to have some dirt. He probably got down there because the ground wasn't frozen, even though it was frosty. Um, and like I said, we went in and out and in and out, and they're like, we're gonna make this last fell swoop. We're gonna go this way, and we got to this one fork in the road, and I found some cow skull on the ground and some bones, and I'm like, for some reason, I've gotten to this point two other times, and we I kept going this way. I'm just gonna go this way now, and I went left, and it was probably another 20, 25 yards, which felt like a mile of a walk because you're going so slow and you're looking around. Um, and then I rounded this one little tree, and he was just piled up, like I said, red everywhere that you wish you would have had from the beginning. But at that point, had we not found him then, we were going to take the chance. When in doubt, back out, go back to the truck, warm up, recoup, maybe go grab something to eat. The problem was is it was going to warm up, so all that stuff was going to melt. And what happens with frost and or snow when it melts? Well, anything that was on it or whatnot gets watered down and washes away. So then we weren't going to have any chance of probably finding any blood had we, waited and gone back later and not found them when we did. So it was, all those emotions, that you see on other shows and to our viewers, I'm sure you've felt those, somebody who has, you've been a part of it, whether it's been yourself or your child or a grandchild or a loved one. And again, it's the excitement, but also the frustration of what we put ourselves out there. I mean, we are human beings, we are an apex predator, but we are also at the mercy of these animals, giving us the opportunity and us capitalizing on it properly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think you could say it much better than that to feel that elation, right? The excitement to be like, yes, like deer down, right? You even get on Facebook, big buck down, and then you get down and you inspect the area and it's like, okay, it looked good, it felt good. Now I'm
Mhm.
reevaluating my whole existence right now because what I thought was like you said, a slam dunk is now, what if I don't find this deer? And that's a tough thing, and it happens, where even though you do put a good shot, weather gets in the way or just they take a complete opposite direction than you think they're going to go and then you just never find them. It's tough,
Right.
but I'm glad you guys found him. Do you know what he ended up scoring?
Uh, I want to say we rough scored them when we got back here to Tennessee, before I took him up to the taxidermist. And I mean, I've green scored quite a few deer in my life. Not to say I'm a pro at it, but I mean, I even do so much where I take a fabric tape measure that's loose,
Yeah.
kind of like for sewing and
Yeah.
measuring out fabric. I know some people they'll take rope or they'll take, I know if you buy this thing called a raculator that's on Cabela's or Bass Pro, they roll it. I had one, wasn't real fond of it, but it does come with a hard metal end, and then it's kind of like a cable with a clamp on it, and you can kind of stretch it out and then clamp where it stops, and then you measure in between those 2 points and add it up. But long story short, I think we got him in, I think he was between 135 and 138.
Okay. I was gonna say he looked 130s to me. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous buck. Um,
Yeah, I know he is done. He's been done for a while.
oh, that's
Just the taxidermist is he's a little over an hour away up in southern Kentucky.
okay.
Um, so he's gracious enough that he's holding on to it. He's got a big enough area where he's just got it hung up, but he sent me a picture of it hanging on a tree. Um, I wish he would have had it either a little higher so it was more white behind him or something because it's kind of tough to make it out just looking at it. You really kind of have to get in there and study it. But unbelievable job on this mount. And this deer in this picture looks like he's in the 160s. Um, I mean, he is absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to get him back in our hands and get him in the house. And my son hasn't even seen it being done yet. I've told him it's done, but I don't want to show him the picture. I want his next time with that deer to be like it was when we took it up there in his hands.
Yeah. Yeah, make sure you get that on video. That'd be a great video to post to him
For
seeing
sure, for
his,
sure.
his PR, right? His personal best.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, it's the biggest deer he's ever seen. Oh, on the hoof
oh, that's all.
while hunting. I mean, we've seen some good ones driving by these places. We've driven past some deer ranches here and there, but hunting, this was the biggest deer he'd ever seen in front of him.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're gonna be probably the taxidermist we went to super busy, so I mean it sounded like it could be, 9 to 12 months before we'll get that back, but that's fine. Uh,
Yeah.
but no, that gets you excited, right? Talking about this stuff gets you excited for this year and what you have planned for this year's hunts. And if your season wasn't successful like mine, um, and that is, multiple factors can make that be an issue. But
Oh, sure.
what are some things that either you're looking forward to, or you've already started kind of working out or trying to work out some plans to do any kind of particular hunt this year?
Yeah, I mean, things have changed a little bit in life, right? So I am now a full-time employee. Well, I say full-time. I'm a regular employee of the United States Postal Service. So I am a mail carrier here in the city of Dixon, Tennessee. So I work between 4 to 5 days a week right now. It could slow down during the summertime, but it really kind of ramps up again during deer season here, which is it starts a little earlier down here than up there, which is nice because we have the opportunity for a couple of weekends to possibly get a whitetail with velvet. I know Kentucky's usually pretty good at that, and I've got some connections up there. That would be that would be a hunt and an opportunity I'd really like to get back to. I've got a really good friend I met at an outfitter years ago in Illinois, and he lives about an hour and well, about 2 hours from me in southern Kentucky, and he usually has some pretty good access to some property. So I've always loved and would love to have a whitetail with velvet. I think that would just be really cool because you don't really have an opportunity to hunt those in other, I think Kentucky and maybe out west in Montana or Wyoming, you could probably do it. Um, watching hunts on videos on TV and stuff from other companies. So it'd be one to get back in touch with and try and work for myself. Not to be greedy, but obviously I'd have the better access and leeway to get away to do that. But I never really know what my schedule is going to be like because it comes out about halfway through the week is over for the next week. And even though I work regularly, I'm not considered a regular carrier. It takes me 2 years to get to that level where I start getting sick time and leave and all that type of stuff. I am awarded different things for days off, but I wouldn't be able to sit there and be like, oh, I need a week off in August, a week off in September, a week, 10 days in October. So I got to kind of pick and choose.
Right.
Obviously, I like to get out back in my house here a little bit more this next year than I did last year. This is our fourth year here in Tennessee. Our first 2 years, we had probably 6 to 8 different bucks every year. Four of them were shooters. And by shooters, I would say for me, I was definitely one of them I would shoot every year that it would have to be over 140. For my son and my daughter, if it was a 125 or more, had been 8 point. They both shot enough smaller bucks and they both want a shoulder mount to show their efforts and whatnot. So the rule was it's got to be an 8 point at 125 or more, or it's got to be a 6 point that's just absolutely gnarly and needs to be taken because it's an older deer or a mature deer, but it's only got 6 points and that's just what he's going to be. Get him out of the population. But one of my other projects I would like to try and get filmed or have the capability of having someone film me while I do parts of it, and then we can work together at putting it into a video for our outdoors addition to our company, which is also I think especially up in Michigan where I lived for 12 years, where my wife's from, about an hour north of where you're at. Um, I was fortunate enough, there's a pallet company here in Dixon, Tennessee that makes their own pallets, but also takes ones that are in good condition and refurbishes them. And I made contacts, and they sold me 20 pallets at 48 by 45 inches for $6 a piece. So I'm going to build my own first stationary um, blind or shooting house or whatever. So I'm gonna have to carry each one of those pallets back to the spot where I want it to be and start erecting it like I'm playing erector set or Legos or Lincoln Logs or whatever you have. Um, and so I think that's going to be a fun little project. I don't think I'm going to have a whole lot of help to do that this year because Brennan's going to be going through shoulder surgery here probably within the next 4 weeks. So he won't be doing much over the summer other than rehabbing and getting ready for fall baseball season for his senior year of college. Um, and then we were told on New Year's morning at 12:02 um, that we are going to be grandparents. So I have my first grandchild on the way,
Congrats.
and so it is going to be a girl. And she is due at the end of July. So my daughter won't be able to be out in the woods with me, helping me very much as she would like to. So it'll be a good experience, and might take me a little longer than I wanted to, and I might have to do it in a lot of different pieces. But if I can get the film rolling using the high quality HD opportunity here on my phone, as well as maybe my wife can walk with the camera and be out there. Don't want to work during the middle of the summer down here because it gets to be extremely hot and humid. If I'm going to be doing that, it needs to be more of the finishing up process instead of the initial process.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea, and I think it'd be great to get it on camera to show people cheap, effective ways. You don't have to go buy the redneck box blinds. Sure, they're super nice, but they're also expensive. You can find pallets for free in a lot of places. Um,
Yeah, go to your box stores, go to your local grocery stores. They all get stuff delivered on pallets. If they just stack them out back and they don't do anything with them, ask them if you can take them. You'd be surprised. A lot of them say, "Yeah, get them out of here. Have them,
yeah,
even if they're broken. Take the broken pieces off. And you can always go to Home Depot, Lowe's, or wherever and buy a couple boards and replace it. Um, I've got an idea on how I'm gonna use mine because there are spaces. I don't have pallets where it's just piece to piece to piece. There are some gaps, but that's gonna help me kind of decide where I want the windows to be, where I want to put the door. And then for insulation and stuff, I mean, super cheap and easy, right? I'm just going to buy the spray foam that expands.
yeah. I actually had that same idea last year. Um, for me, my goal for this year, is to get as many kills on camera as I can. Well, everybody's got different issues with hunting. Sometimes it's work schedule, it's family schedule. For me, it's finding good land here in Hillsdale County, Michigan. Everybody hunts. There's more hunters per square mile than there are deer in some places.
Hmm.
Um, I approached one of the landowners last year just saying, hey, I can throw this together with some screws, tear it down and move it if you don't want me hunting here next year. It didn't work out, but since land comes at a premium here, there are a lot of deer inside the city limits. And so
Right.
I think I'm going to one try and secure three or four spots that have some good promise, hopefully. But I also am going to work on getting my in-town permit because I've seen bucks walking down the sidewalk in the middle of downtown Hillstone. Now, granted, it's a population of like 8,000 people, so it's not Detroit by any means, but
Right.
when you see that, it wakes you up to be like, maybe I'm overthinking this. Maybe I'm looking for too much. If you got a pop-up blind that's big enough to fit a camera and your crossbow or compound, whatever you shoot, I like the crossbow for convenience while I'm self-filming, but that just presents more opportunities and more at bats. What I
100%.
when I love to travel down to Missouri, the guys from Backwoods invited us down when we had them on the podcast. Sure, but there's a lot of logistics that go into it. So hopefully in the next couple years I'll get lucky and be able to do a specialty hunt. Gator's been on my bucket list.
Hmm.
Come harass you and try and get some Tennessee whitetail, maybe a black bear. That's on my list too. But um, you know, it seems like no matter what age you are, there's always conflicts between making time or finding time to hunt and actually being able to go out and hunt without losing your relationship with your family or losing your job. We're not in that position. We can do this and it's our primary revenue, right? It's more passive. Um,
Right.
for folks that don't know who you are, I know you mentioned it very, very briefly earlier. Um, but you played several years in the majors as a pitcher for the Astros, I believe the Mets, and then I think wasn't there another team?
Nationals, Padres, and one start with the Yankees.
Okay. Um, and that's the cool thing about our show is, we have you, we have Kyle. And I think it breaks down the barrier between what people view a professional athlete as, because sometimes they're not always the easiest when they're in their element, trying to meet them and talk with them. And
Right.
I've appreciated getting to know you guys and that, like, oh, you just did a job that a lot of people enjoy. Um, but that doesn't make you different. But in the same sense, I've always wondered, especially with like the demand of any professional sport, right? Because just because baseball season's over or football season's over doesn't mean preparation and the game really ever ends. I mean, you start working out, you start working on postseason spring stuff. I don't know what all goes into that, but how hard was it for you when you were playing to be able to get out and hunt? Or did it help you have better opportunities because you were traveling, making connections? I personally would love to hear how that worked and if you found it easier then than you do now, or if it is a little bit easier now than it used to be to get out.
Yeah, I mean, when I was an active player, um, being an outdoors person and being a hunter, it just lined up perfectly because I'm gone from February till October. Deer season starts primarily around October for 95% of the, United States. Um, I'm on my downtime, so I just got done with the full season. I'm not doing anything baseball related at least for 2 months. So I've got 2 months to just dedicate myself to getting out into the woods or going somewhere to hunt, which I did. Talked about Canadian moose. I took my um, two of my uncles up to Canada. We all shot moose in Alberta. Took same two uncles and my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, and I went with Bobby Parnell, who was a teammate of mine with the Mets. We went to Ohio to an outfitter down there and outside Coshocton, Ohio, which is a mecca area for whitetails, and got that connection through Mark Drury. And obviously that connection came from talking to a bunch of baseball people from St. Louis that hunt and played for the Cardinals and knew them. And so it was a lot easier and kind of innocent meeting people and being introduced because, like you said, we were kind of in a platform where we were looked at as being stars or, put on a pedestal. So people wanted to be close to us because of being able to play a professional sport at the highest level. As much as we thought it was really cool to be talking to people who hunt for a living and get to do it, anywhere they want to go, whether it's not only just the meccas of the United States for different game, but oh, we're going to go to New Zealand and hunt stag, or we're going down to Argentina to quail hunt, to bird hunt, or to, hunt the Patagonia, go to Alaska, which again is United States, but that's like a different world because it's not the continental, it's not the 48 states here and that are contiguous. Going to Mexico and shooting the big muleys down there and some of the white. So it's like, it kind of put us on an even scale. We're here as athletes and people want to look up to us, but they're here as professional hunters and got all this access to land and places to go. But because we have a mutual love for each other's stuff, we're all just kind of right here. Um, so it was really easy to find those connections and to make them. The hard part was you tell four different people, yeah, I'd love to come out this year. And then it's like, I don't have time to go four places.
All right.
And then the next year you're like, well, I'm going to go to this one or two, and the next year I'm going to do the other two. But then you go to those two and you have such an amazing time and you see what it's all about. You're like, I'm coming back here again next year, and then you kind of rob Peter to pay Paul, so to speak, and pick and choose what you're doing. And then you kind of lose contact and then you feel bad because you hadn't gone out there for a year or two after they said we'd love to have you, and then it's like, okay, well now I have the time to go, but I kind of feel resilient to call them and be like, hey, you got a spot? I'd love to come out. Um, and then now, being retired and being kind of back into the general population role of an employee and back with the family and having an addition coming and stuff like that. I don't find the connections as easily. One, because I'm not traveling as much organically because of baseball. Um, you're traveling so much on the organization's dime, whether you're in the big leagues or the minor leagues, that you're seeing different parts of the country and being in different states and different cities that you never thought you'd ever go to. Excuse me. But so I'm finding it harder to make those connections. But the connections that I'm making are a lot more personal, as opposed to professional, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And so those personal ones are the ones that you really you want to get in there and get down, get down to the bottom and the base and see what everybody's kind of really made of. And those are the ones that you end up, being lifelong friends with and do a lot of hunting with or, you know, on and off more times than not.
Right, right. And actually, that's kind of a good segue into what our new episode's going to be for hopefully this month. It's a short month, so that makes it a little tougher, but um, your connections through baseball led you to John Neese, who was a pitcher for the Mets and I think the Pirates. And that connection, oddly enough, John Neese is from Defiance, Ohio, which is where I spent the majority of my childhood. Never
Mhm.
met him, really didn't even know about him just because he went to a different high school than I did, and he's a couple years older than I am. But um, you were able to get me connected with him, and he knew I did film stuff, and so because of that, that opened up the door to get us down to double play hunting preserve, which
Right.
Zion did a couple years ago or last year. I lose track of time, but
Yeah.
we were able to have a great hunt there and really dissect when people talk about when they go to an outfitter and hunt free range or hunt a high fence, you know, the difference. And until you actually go try it, you really can't judge it. Um, and that was my experience, and definitely looking forward to getting that episode out. I'm very selective with what I shoot, so I'm not going to shoot a, small basket rack 8 point here in Michigan just to get a kill on camera. I'm going to wait for a buck that exceeds or meets any previous
Right.
year I've shot. So I don't get as many kills on cam as like Kyle, for instance, because he's got some good land and that's great. But that's definitely a hunt that was super special. And I want to take a minute and just thank John Neese and Double Play Hunting Preserve for having me out. And hopefully, you and him and I can continue to talk and hopefully get the team there sometime in the next couple years, hopefully, and have a good time and do some hunting. But I appreciate having you on. I don't want to keep you too late. It's getting late in the night, but did want to take a quick moment and thank all of our sponsors. Of course, Vortex Optics, Top Notch Blades, Old Indian Tricks. A lot of what we do stems from the support of our sponsors and our followers. And so I want to give a big thank you to each one of them and for their continued faith and support in us. And to all our
Absolutely.
followers, thank you for continuing to support us, watching the episodes. I hope you guys are liking the podcast. I think this podcast is great and will continue to grow for one outdoors enthusiast, especially as we start to branch into different variants of the outdoor world beyond just hunting, but also for people who like sports and have always wondered what it's like to really get to know a former athlete. There, even the retired athletes can seem like there's a barrier between you and them, and you can only meet them if you're going to some kind of signing session and you got to pay, and that doesn't give you time to actually get
Right.
to know them. And so it's cool, and I hope people are enjoying these episodes and looking forward to having you back on and the rest of the team. We got Austin's butt on here, who's kind of you know, someone who's been a part of the show for a while, but hasn't got a ton of kills on camera. So we definitely want to get him on, but hopefully some cool guests
Right.
here too. You said you had some connections to the Drury brothers, so that might be something to discuss off camera, but it'd be
Yeah. I don't know if I have them anymore. It's been a
yeah,
long time, but
yeah. No,
um, I wanted to put a plug in there before we get off to our viewers and followers. With social media nowadays and technology, we've got our phones here, virtually in our hands all the time. Um, Zach just said, it's hard to think that you could connect with a former pro athlete or a professional hunter or, whatever it is that you look up to in the line of work or profession. I encourage you, especially through our Facebook and our Instagram accounts, if you send us private messages to our accounts, we will answer you personally. If you have a question for me, if you have a question for Kyle, if you have a question for Zach, as you get to meet and hear more from Austin, he's more of he's more of our tech savvy marketing type guy. But as you get to hear and learn more about him, like if you have questions about an episode that you watched, or why did you do this, or in my experience, this has happened, or if you just want to ask us a general question, or how do you cook this, or how do you make your game less, your wild game less gamey for people who don't like it, and you want to try and impress them with it, like it, interact. Like we've lost the ability to as a people to interact because we have this technology, but we can use this technology to our advantage to reach out to people that you never thought you could reach out to. And I'm telling you right now, if you get on our Facebook page, if you get on our IG account, and you have a question, tag who you want to talk to. Tim Redding, IG, Redding17. Follow me. Ask me questions. It doesn't even have to be on the LOTD page. On Facebook, you could probably look me up. You'll see, look for me and see if there's any information. If it says look at a draw pro staffer, then it's me. It's me. Um, or just go to our company page. But if you have questions, comments, concerns, keep it clean. We don't see black and white. We see all colors. We see all generations. We see everything. But keep it clean and keep it, within the realm of what we're trying to do. Like I said, we're expanding to adding outdoors to our name because we want to get into meal prepping. We want to get into working out, body fitness, health, camping, fishing, all the things that you could do in the outdoors. Because we all, in the four of us right now, we all dabble our hands in all that shooting, going to ranges, gun care, like all that stuff, bow care equipment. So, got questions? Bottom line, reach out to us. We will get back to you.
definitely. And if there's a topic that you want to talk or want to have us talk about on the podcast, or like, hey, will you make an episode about, doing early scouting and trying to find sheds and whatever it might be. Um, we're trying to build a show that people can relate to, and it breaks down the barriers of who people think other people are, and also try and teach. That's one thing. I'm 33. I'm always learning something new about this sport that I've grown to love. So yeah, definitely I will echo that sentiment. But Timmy, thank you for being on, my brother. I really appreciate it. I know it didn't work out over the weekend, but I'm glad we were able to get together. And thank you, everybody,
Absolutely.
for checking out our newest podcast episode. If you haven't seen Tim and Brennan's double feature hunt, please go check it out. I promise you'll like it. It's an awesome hunt. It was a pleasure to put together, and get ready for the double play episode because that one's going to be fun. I got more footage than I know what to do with. So hopefully that'll turn out nice, and it'll lead to opportunities for us to do more fun stuff in the future. But thanks again. I appreciate it.